Okay, good afternoon, everybody, or evening, or whatever time it is you're listening to this. It's finally warm enough I can get back out in the shop. Even here in Central Florida, it got pretty cold over the weekend. Too cold for me to be out here. But we're back up in the high 60s today, so I'm back out in the shop to finish shading this section, and then I'll move right into that one. We're going to do things a little bit differently today. Um, the the first drop of the Epstein files came out Friday afternoon, and I've been reading through them, and I am absolutely disgusted. I have never wanted to be wrong so much in my life. Our entire Western civilization is run on a pyramid scheme created by pedophiles. And I don't know where to go with this. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just work. I'm going to work in silence. But I'm going to play one of the podcasts that I listen to every morning. It's the Bear Brief. And basically, he goes over gives us the global sit rep for the day. Today, his message is really important. So I hope you guys listen. I really do. I listened to it this morning, and yeah, I think it's appropriate for the day. So what I'm going to do is just take this microphone and set it over there next to the speaker, so everybody else can listen, and I'll listen to it again. Anyway, that's the plan for the first hour. I don't know what's gonna come after that first hour. I mean, I'm pretty angry, and I don't know where to go with it. So I'm gonna get this podcast going, and I'm just gonna sit back and cut.
Bear Independent Brief, 3 February 26. Off the cuff this morning. Had a written brief yesterday about politics, and I'm about done with politics. So here we are. We currently have an American government shutdown, which is likely cover for action. One of the things that will result from the government shutdown is BLS, Bureau of Labor and Statistics. We saw this during the last government shutdown, the longest in American history. They didn't produce any data during that time, and that allowed the Trump administration to continue to perpetuate the narrative that this is the strongest economy that we've ever had, while the fact of the matter is it's not. So gaslighting out of this administration regarding the current economic status of the country and to a lesser extent the world. A lot of the air quote experts are saying that we are on the verge of global hyperinflation. Now, experts have been saying words to that effect the majority of my life, if not since before I was born. However, just because the canaries in the coal mine have been singing before they die doesn't mean that we're not there now. So there's no reporting currently. There's some speculation that a parallel economy is going to emerge out of the de-dollarization that we are currently going through. What do I mean by de-dollarization? I mean fiat dollars, your Bretton Woods, right? So that parallel economy has to be backed by something. It used to be backed by gold. No longer. Hasn't been for, since before I was born. So what's it going to be backed by? Well, Rumint, uh, AI, artificial intelligence. If you've got enough chips for computing, congratulations, you're the new oligarchy at this point. Super interesting. In either event, the dollar is being devalued, and potentially during this government shutdown, which is rumored to last at least through the 8th of February, if not through the 15th. Oh, it's also cover for action for Middle Eastern activities, which we'll get to in a moment. As the dollar continues to lose its value, we are in an inflationary period right now, regardless of which asshole it was that was just brought on. I don't remember his name. To chair the Fed. Controlled demolition status of the United States dollar currently. Inflationary period currently. Sustained periods of inflation historically, statistically, lead to hyperinflation. When that happens, here's our tactical concern here. The average citizenry can no longer afford food, utilities, rent, fuel, medicine, which means you should be stockpiling what from a preparedness standpoint? Food, utilities. How do I stockpile utilities, Barrett? What are you, retarded? Electricity, water, gas, propane. The Overton window is shifting, boys and girls, and it's shifting quickly. And if you can't pull your heads out of your derrieres and act accordingly, you're going to get acted upon. You're going to lose the ability to act. And having been doing this for 8 years, wanting to be wrong the entire time that I've been doing this for 8 years, I absolutely am reading the writing on the wall. And if your immediate response to receiving information that creates cognitive dissonance in your brain is to leave a snarky YouTube comment, you're not going to make it. You're just not going to make it. It's as simple as that. And the reason that I provide this information to you is not to scare you. It's not for clicks and likes, because we've been shadow banned on YouTube since COVID, and then again since Hurricane Helene. I give you this information so that you have the information by which you can maneuver for the preservation of life to maintain normalcy for the people that you love. It's certainly not because I want to hear myself talk. I've got plenty of other things to do. Unlike the vast majority of people you will find on YouTube, content creator is about 12th on the list of things that I do every day, not the first. Okay, with that out of the way. Hyperinflation, food, utilities, rent, fuel, medicine, lack of which in the general populace will historically lead to civil unrest, with which, if it is left unchecked, will create chaos. The federal government, don't ask me how I know this, currently has enough funds to run itself for about 70 days, about 10 weeks, which gets back to, oh, well, that's because I haven't approved a budget. No, I mean what's in the treasury. Which means if they're going to get more of it, they're going to have to what? Including with the new fella, who is not a fan of QE, quantitative easing, aka printing more money. Okay? Which goes back to hyperinflation. They're going to have to get it from somewhere. So they're either going to have to take it from other places, like we call that war, booty, treasure, print it, quantitative easing, which increases inflationary pressure, or create something else, aka parallel economy. None of which is good. We're circling the drain, and the faster you the longer you circle the drain, the faster you circle the drain. Okay, so the federal government can currently fund itself for about 70 days, about 10 weeks. That's the operating capital that they have on hand. Okay, so that's not looking great right there. Shifting gears, there is a little organization called the Project on Middle Eastern Political Science, POMEPS, POMEPS, Papa, Oscar, Mike, Echo, Papa, Sierra, POMEPS, the Project on Middle Eastern Political Science, based out of the Elliott School of International Affairs in Washington, D.C., aka homosexual. However, these people put together what they call their POMEPS studies, and Book 44, The Racial Formations in Africa and the Middle East, a Trans-Regional Approach. Book 44 is currently in vogue in certain circles at the upper echelons of leadership, and it has, why do you care? Well, let's go back to the title of Book 44. Racial Formations in Africa and the Middle East. Tripolar world, I've been telling you, and I will continue to for as long as I A, feel like it, and B, can, that the United States is going to pull back into Monroe Doctrine 2.0. We see that with the most recent National Defense Strategy. We talked about that end of last week, as well as Russia, Ukraine. By the way, the United Nations is broke. So broke, they cannot even fund themselves through the year 2026. Okay, cool. They can't pay the rent on the headquarters. UN, not to be confused with NATO, but the United Nations is broke. Okay, so China, uh, and we've also in the the United States, the National Defense Strategy talked about how we don't want to uh, find ourselves in a hot war with China. We go over here to Defense One. National Defense Strategy says the U.S. aims not to strangle or humiliate China, but instead to forge a détente that halts the growth of Chinese economic inroads in the Western Hemisphere and uses dominance to keep China in line, including by increasing defenses along the island chain. Okay, we have talked about island chains a lot. Note that it says specifically halts the growth of Chinese economic inroads in the Western Hemisphere. So China gets the Eastern Hemisphere, the United States gets the Western Hemisphere, and Russia, as a regional superpower with regional ambitions, gets Europe as an economic zone. And gosh dang, does Europe need it, because they're currently heavily coupled with Russia anyway. And they were incredibly heavily coupled with Russia prior to the war in Ukraine kicking off, and the Europeans cannot take Russia in Ukraine, and Russia's a third-rate military. So the European military, by the way, look for potentially re-emerging Germanic leadership as the largest country by landmass and GDP in Europe. And that's happened a couple of times before. We colloquially refer to those periods of time as World War I and World War II. So we could call that an indicator. Let's zoom back out again for a minute. So book 44, volume 44 of, going back over here to POMEPS. All right. So we, the United States currently have people in around Syria. We've got this whole Kurdish thing going on. We have a long and storied history with the Kurds. We have moved troops and aircraft carriers and aircraft and all kinds of resources back into the region of the Middle East. We talked about Chinese radars, hypothetically, and long wave radar versus short wave radar. The newest, highest capability Chinese radars, and China's going broke too, by the way. We've been talking about how it's a race to the bottom for both China and the United States for, I don't know, about a year. But China exerts far more centralized control over their economy than the United States does, although currently the largest investor in American mining, the American mining industry currently is far and away the United States Department of Defense. So much so that Trump just announced $12 billion to Project Vault, which is a strategic reserve of critical minerals for the United States. And that's just seed capital. Note the burn rate. They're using these inflationary dollars, which will soon be hyperinflated as quickly as possible, converting inflationary dollars into physical assets as quickly as possible. We're going to talk about that by the end of the show here, and I'm just shooting from the cuff. So back to China and these 12 heavy lift aircraft that flew from China to Iran. And then hypothetically, oh my gosh, these Chinese radars, because I couldn't just tell you straight up that the planes were filled with radar, because then I'd have to explain how I might or might not know that. So hypothetically, these Chinese radars, oh my gosh, so interesting. That is what has currently kept F-22s and F-35s at bay, which is why we've been seeing American ground troops move into ish theater over there. Questions as to whether or not we will go. Now, a lot of people have surmised that the reason that the Jeffrey files were released was because Trump failed to attack Iran, and Bibi said, "Oh yeah, watch this." We're not going to get any actual fidelity on the Jeffrey files. We'll get nothing but speculation, which will do nothing but feed the confusion surrounding the Jeffrey files. So much so that people are currently saying that there's people inside the Trump's administration are the ones that leaked the Jeffrey files, much to his chagrin, and he is furious about it. Maybe, I don't know. But while the timing of the release of the DOJ Jeffrey files is curious for sure, I think the reason we haven't gone into Iran has less to do with whether or not Trump wants to, and more to do with whether or not we can. Because it's not just the loss of life potentially with flying manned aircraft that are capable of being seen by these long wave Chinese radars. It's also the loss of the uh, intellectual property of the United States if it's shot down and recovered, like, I don't know, the U-2 spy plane. Remember that? Oh, speaking of which, U2 Bono, turns out he's also a PDF file. Who'd have thought? Yeah, they all are. It's one big club. We're not in it. You don't want to be in it. And the world actually is run by satanic pedophiles. And it is actually that bad. And if people can't orient on that problem and then decide what they're going to do, act upon it, we're all doomed anyway. And the time for political solutions is over. The train is coming off the tracks, and you need to do all the things that you need to do ASAP. ASAP, man, by 2027, if not sooner. The world geopolitical landscape, let alone the American political landscape, and therefore everything that's downstream of politics, which in 2026 is everything, is going to look vastly different. So you need the ability to maneuver, shoot, move, communicate, sustain. And I mean move literally and figuratively. Move. Get after it. So back to China and radars and ground troops. Xi Jinping, little fellow, you might have heard of him, current dictator of China. He's been over there running the show for a hot minute. We've talked about his purge at the upper echelons of leadership there. That actually increases the likelihood of everything everywhere all at once, because there is now so much military and political instability within the inner cabinet of Xi, which doesn't exist. It's just Xi and one other dude. That the likelihood for Xi to fly off the handle increases, while at the same time their demography is decreasing, which means the window of opportunity for China to act is closing by the day. And the United States is specifically saying, yo, we're just gonna be over here in the Western Hemisphere. You guys do what you need to do over there. Okay. That means likelihood, increases the likelihood that we could see some action on Taiwan. And as I've been telling you forever, Taiwan is simply covered for action. Taiwan is the dog whistle. Taiwan simply means Pacific Rim, Chinese expansion out from there. So if you find yourself in Australia, Malaysia, New Zealand, Indonesia, all the way out to Hawaii and the Alaskan Aleutian Islands, action on Taiwan is step one of 100 steps. It's not the be all end all. It's the cover for action for everything else. That the American Department of Defense, it's the Department of War, Barry, shut up with that. No, it's not. It's the American Department of Defense. Show me your contract and tell me what it says on it. Okay. Congress did not ratify the name change to Department of War. It is officially, if you go look it up on their website, officially a nickname. Okay. But in any event, the American Department of Defense is specifically concerned about the East China Sea and South China Sea, large scale combat operations there, thinking, believing, planning for if the United States has to confront China in that region, that the initial casualties in the first 48 hours will amount to hundreds of thousands. Now, you may be asking yourself, that exceeds the entire staffing of the United States Marine Corps. How could that possibly be hundreds of thousands? Well, the Marine Corps tends to ride around on these big gray ships. You might have seen them. So there's also sailors that could be involved. And then, as far as force structure is concerned, the United States Army has been talking about how does the Army get in on the action in the East China Sea and the South China Sea, to the point where they are considering restructuring at least part of the force for littoral combat, aka island hopping. That's what we call an indicator. All right. No big deal. It's fine, right? It's fine. Everything's fine. Did I mention there's no political solution at this point? You're hearing a lot of people say that Trump's entire political ethos right now is pushing for the midterms. I don't know that we'll have midterms, being perfectly honest with you. I would give the likelihood that we actually have midterms a coin toss at this point. Moving along, the Jeffrey files point towards systemic collapse of the American political system. I don't believe that most air quote politicians understand the fury of the grassroots. The if we let it be, the ruse is up. It's one of the reasons I did not do a brief yesterday is I'm I'm still pissed, but I was pissed yesterday. And logic and emotion cannot occupy the same space. It is biologically impossible for your brain to be both logical and emotional at the same time, which is one of the strategic initiatives of releasing the files in the first place, is to get everybody spun up into a tizzy, because you can't actually think, you can't actually be logical when you're emotional. Brain doesn't work that way. One side and the other. What's the corpus callosum, the chunk of brain that connects the two? It turns off when you're emotional. You can't be logical when you're emotional. So I don't believe the American political system is truly aware of how pissed off people are. I had a half a dozen different people reach out to me yesterday and say, Bear, what can we do about this? What do we do? Which brings me to this next part here. What I was able to come up with yesterday shows you how well the logic works when you're pissed off is everything is fake and gay. It's all fake and gay. Now, what's the opposite of fake and gay? Real and not gay. True. Now, when I say gay, I don't mean homosexual. I mean, well, weak, not cool. Bear, that's offensive. That's a hate speech. That's whatever. I choose to be offended. Okay, we're beyond that. Nobody cares. Go pick up a flashbang and run around with it and see what happens. We're beyond that. So what's the opposite of fake and gay? Real and true. So what's real? Father's real. His word is true. Okay. So this is going to bring us back to biblical first principles here, right? There really is a worldwide pedophilic satanic cult that has existed not for decades, but for millennia. And they really do want to kill all of us. And they really do have complete and utter disregard for life. And they really do view us as goyim, cattle. And you really need to start acting like that's true, or they're going to continue to act upon you. They want to kill all of us. Now, you go deep enough with that. Why? Where does this come from? Well, there's a little chapter, Genesis chapter 6, verse 4. Yeah. And the Nephilim were on the earth in those days and after. Well, where did they come from? Most quoted book in the Bible, Book of Enoch, describes in part the fall of the Watchers. Why? Why did they copulate with the daughters of men? To get a little Timothy Alberino-ish on you. Because they want what we have, which is a birthright and inheritance, a relationship with the Most High. That's why the serpent felt the need to trick Adam and Eve, Adam and Hava. And the serpent has enmity with the seed of the woman. Who's the woman? The woman is the bride. Christ is the bridegroom. So this battle's been going on forever. And it's going to continue to go on until the one, the anointed, the Mashiach, returns. But in the meanwhile, what is it for us? What are your general orders? Matthew 22, verse 36. Master, master, what's the greatest command in all of the Torah? There are two. The first is you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, with all your strength, with everything that you've got. And how do we love him? Oh, well, we could read the Gospel of John. If you love me, keep my commands, even as I have kept my Father's commands. 6, love's a verb. Love is something that you do. Not think about, talk about, pray about, meditate on. It's something that you do. It's an action word. And love your neighbor as yourself. Okay. And that doesn't mean like esoterically, like abstractly, like if you have food and your neighbor doesn't, fix it. If your roof doesn't leak and your neighbor's does, fix it. Etc. Okay. Who's my neighbor, Bear? Every time I get asked that question, it's because somebody is looking for an excuse to not love someone. Now, wise as a serpent, gentle as a dove. If somebody's trying to injure you, kill you, steal from you, violate one of the big 10, that's not neighborly conduct. And if you find yourself in a deadly force engagement, the only way to get out of that is to be better at deadly force than they are. All right. So if everything's fake and gay, we should do the opposite of fake and gay. Let us hear the conclusion of the matter. Serve Yahweh and keep his commands, for this applies to all mankind. Ecclesiastes 12, verses 13 and 14. Speaking of fake and gay, toxic snow reports. If you're not ready to put heads on spikes yet, you ought to be. Let me find this conversation here. The snow from New Mexico to the Atlantic. I've been getting updates from, I don't know if he wants his name on the internet. I'll ask him later. However, let's just say samples have been taken. Multiple samples have been taken. And here's just one from Fargo, North Dakota. Let's just look at this. Readings. Date of scan. February the 1st, 2026. Fargo, North Dakota snow sample. 136 infectious agents, 90 viral agents, synthetic. 94 viral skin agents, synthetic. 128 respiratory viral agents, synthetic. 124 inhaled poisons, 105 chemical poisons, 95 heavy metal poisons, 36 cyanide poison, 21 cadmium poison, 73 radioactive fallout group 1, 86 radioactive fallout group 2. Now, these are probably parts per million. 70 radioactive barium iodine, 18 radioactive plutonium strontium, 79 sulfuric acid, 83 aluminum heavy metal, 24 arsenic heavy metal, 35 barium heavy metal, 19 cadmium heavy metal, 52 mercury heavy metal, 70 lead heavy metal, 46 strontium heavy metal, 32 silver nitrate. Now here's an interesting one. 28 mRNA technology, and 59 ergot in the snow. That's the sample from Fargo, North Dakota. The sample from Beverly, North Central West Virginia looks very similar. The sample from Tyler, Texas looks very similar. The sample from North Carolina looks very similar. On and on and on, because they're still spraying things into the sky. They're poisoning the air, the water, the land, your minds, your food, all of it. It's all fake and gay. So what do you do to fix that? By the way, Heads on Spikes 2028. What do we do to fix that? If not sooner, Heads on Spikes. Fire up the wood chippers, boys, because the Air Quote elected representatives, are not going to do anything on your behalf to fix it, because it is counter to their financial interests and, frankly, their lives, because they're compromised. And if they individually are not compromised, they are operating inside of a compromised system. So you, me, all of us, you need to group up ASAP. If you do not have a group currently, you need one. And I don't want to hear, I can't. That's fine. The extent to which you adhere to this advice is the extent to which you have the ability to weather the storm that is coming. The extent to which you take this advice seriously is the extent to which it will be effective. Now, I'm already doing this, so I don't need you to acquiesce to my recommendations in order to feel validated. I am simply telling you what I have seen work on my end. You need to group up ASAP. ASAP. Because it is harder to act upon a group of people than it is an individual, and you can share labor, including food production and security. You need people now. You need to be doing all the things that come with having people now. And if you have a mutual assistance group and your MAG meetings have devolved into drinking coffee and bitching about the government, you need to pull your heads out of your asses and get serious. Serious. Which is my next point. You need to train all of the things, all of it. You need interoperability as a group. You need to figure out your logistics. Yes, you need to shoot. Yes, you need to be able to communicate, but you also need to be able to sustain and move as individuals and as a group. And you need to figure out how to do that now while you can. You need to build resilience through inventory. We would call this prepping. What should I prep? Well, it's 2026. If you can't answer that question by now, you're doomed. I already told you. Food, utilities, rent, fuel, medicine. At a minimum. At a minimum. You need shelter as well. And hard-sided shelter and mobile shelter as well. And maybe you're going to do an outdoor boys or corporal's corner thing and walk into the woods and make you a little hut with a tarp. Maybe. That's labor intensive. It also makes a lot of noise. And maybe where you live, that's fine. You don't need to worry about making a lot of noise. But man, there's these things, LIDAR, thermal, electromagnetic spectrum, resonance, population density. They'll start in the most populous areas and then work their way out from there, because that's how it always goes down historically. So you need resilience. You need an inventory of backstock. To that, I have told you that there will be a run on ammo next month. They're not making any more of it. Additionally, have you seen the price of copper? Copper is a part of a requirement to produce ammunition because brass, copper, and tin. Yeah, they're not making any more of it, literally. And I have been telling you this for months now. So, if you don't have what you need, get it. You need to develop operational security and communication security, OPSEC and COMSEC, now. Now. Some of y'all said, I read Resistance Operating Concept. It's very dry. No shit. It's an operations manual on resistance. Resistance Operating Concept. It's not a novel. Go read Lord of the Rings if you would like to be entertained. The time to be entertained is over. Total Resistance by Von Dock. It's another one. Update it for 2026 because it's not as simple as cut the telephone lines anymore or hide behind a billboard. That doesn't cut it anymore. There's the potential. Remember I talked about devaluing the dollar and replacing it with a parallel economy, potentially to be AI based, potentially. That's one theory. There is a possible for a worldwide technological oligarchy. If that happens, I would expect the implementation of both a social credit score as well as a digital ID tied to your ability to access currency because you don't have server racks full of H200 processing chips. They do. Yeah. So connectivity, which is something that is currently espoused as vital, connectivity will be the chains with which they bind you. Things to think about. So you need OPSEC and COMSEC. Now, you need the ability to produce food and water and clean that water because it just read to you what's in the snow. mRNA technology, you're not pissed enough. Did you let your children go outside and eat some snow? Because I did. I did. My 18-month-old. And then I started getting these reports. See, you think when I say heads on spikes, I'm being cute. I'm not being cute. Bear, what do we do? Well, you have connectivity. There's a whole lot of information that's in the public domain, isn't there? Isn't there? And I'll tell you what, the far left sure isn't afraid to use it. We'll just leave that at that. And you need to hold assets. I don't know if you noticed how Bitcoin's been doing. There's at least one email where Jeffrey is referring to Satoshi. And is that manufactured? Is that true? We'll never know, but Bitcoin has been crashing. I don't hold Bitcoin. I haven't held Bitcoin. I've always had a check in my spirit about Bitcoin. I do hold some XRP, which is increasing in value. Finally, that's nice. People will bring up the gold and silver crash. It's lost 20 to 30% of its value in the last week. It's gained 50% of its value in the last 3 months. So it's still up significantly. And that air quote crash is artificial market manipulation, a lot of which is coming out of the Pacific Rim. I'm still very bullish on precious metals, which again, you could include ammunition in there, assets, land, water, food. They're not going to get any cheaper. I just got an updated appraisal on this house that I'm sitting in. It has increased in value $115,000 in the last 18 months. That's not an increase in value, that's a decrease in the purchasing power of the US dollar. Yeah. So hold assets, land, gold, silver, food, water, ammunition. It is not my goal to be Debbie Downer. But I would be doing you a disservice if I was to lie to you and say, oh, everything's great. It's fine. It's not great. It's not fine. It's not going to get better. There's no political solution. And it is possible, likely even, that untold heretofore amounts of violence are going to be required in order to simply survive what is coming. Now, I don't want you to get caught off guard with that. And I'll get all kinds of questions in the comments. Bear, what do I do? I'm a insert, archetype of human here. You figure it out. I told you what to do. Group up, train, build resilience, establish OPSEC and COMSEC, stockpile ammo, produce food and water, get serious, hold assets. I can't run your life. I don't want to run your life. I can barely run mine. And the tactical drains me anyway. How you apply this to your life, that's your business. You figure that out. I don't know. You know your situation better than I do. As for me, I'm doing these things. I've been doing these things. And again, I don't need your participation to validate the fact that I'm doing these things, because I will continue to do them with or without you. But I am compelled by the Spirit of the Most High to communicate this to you for the preservation of life, so you increase the likelihood that you will be able to continue to breathe whatever may come. I want to make fun videos. I want to walk around in the woods and just talk shit. Just have light conversations. I want that. But what I want to do, what I need to do, are two very different things. And there's a part of me that laments that. The only hope I can give you is Christ. That's it. The only thing that's not fake and gay in this world is the sovereignty of the Most High and the Most High made flesh, Yeshua HaMashiach, Jesus the Christ. That's it. Unless you get spiritually lazy and believe that He will save you from all of this, I'd like you to do an experiment. Get a shovel, go stand in your yard, lean on the shovel, and pray. And you tell me how long you need to stand there and pray before that hole digs itself. Catch my drift? Shifting gears. GrindstoneMinistries.com is currently deployed in Selmer, Tennessee, AO. It is a disaster. The ice storm was significantly bad. Myriads of snapped power poles, thousands of destroyed trees on homes, etc., etc. They need help. They need volunteer help. There are 13 different occupational specialties inside of Grindstone, not just chainsaw guy or heavier equipment guy, although we certainly need those two, or chainsaw gal or heavy equipment gal. Non-discriminatory here. But also logistics, food prep, and ministry, and all of that. We need help. We need people. We need material. We need stuff for this community. And we need money to put fuel in the trucks. If the Spirit convicts you to assist in any of those ways, you can visit grindstoneministries.com. grindstoneministries.com. If you have any questions, do not ask me. You can direct those questions to admin@grindstoneministries.com. They need help. It's bad. And this is part of love your neighbor as yourself. And this is part of why we operate from positions of strength so that we can go help people when they need help. Positions of strength, calebhouse.org. I got information yesterday that would boil your blood regarding the ongoing rescue of a child and a government agency that is complicit. We fight not against flesh and blood, but against nations and principalities and spiritual wickedness in high places. Therefore, put on the full armor of God. And I am done being even kind of reasonable about this. I had a hard time being around my own children yesterday. Because I couldn't look at them without seeing these other children. And that's my burden to bear. But we need your help. We need your help. I need your help with Caleb House. And I know everybody has their own shit going on. I have my own shit going on too. and I get it. But it's so much worse than anyone will tell you. And most of the people that are air quote involved in this space are grifters. They're grifters that need to be removed from the chessboard because they are raising funds off of the backs of raped children while doing nothing about it. And they're just as complicit as the people who harm these children in the first place. Continue to pray for Caleb House. I got a call from one of my best operatives yesterday. Just a combination of furious and distraught because of what they were having to deal with in the field, in the moment. The average lifespan of somebody in this counter-trafficking industry is 2 years. I mean, hardcore people. 2 years. Because it's a lot. So, pray for Caleb House. And if the Spirit moves you, calebhouse.org. I want to thank the patrons as well for being the economic engine of what we do here at Bear Independent. Not only could I not do it without you, I wouldn't. So I appreciate the steadfast support from all of you. And the other thing that I genuinely appreciate is that you see me at my peaks and my troughs, and yet you are still here. I also appreciate the understanding that I couldn't do a brief yesterday. There would have been no value in it. So I'm thankful for you. Lastly, everybody who supports Refuge Medical, my gosh, thank you. Thank you. Yet another example of a small organization punching way above its weight class. It has been an honor and a blessing to build this company with you all over the last 5 years. From my barn to 4 continents, 164 people are still alive and 10 babies because we showed up to work. And no, we don't ship the fastest, but we make the best kits on planet Earth. And we just try to be decent to people, to love our neighbor as ourselves for the preservation of life. And I'm thankful that y'all support what we do, however it is that we do it, whatever facet of the enterprise that it is that y'all plug in. I look forward to seeing y'all at the Ruckus, March 13th through 15th. It may be one of the last times we can get together before all this thing goes to hell in a handbasket. May the Father's will be done. I'll see you when I see you.
And with that, I'm going to take a break. Alright, let's get this section finished up. Oh, that's right. Let's knock off some of those chips. Okay. I do believe I can call that whole section done. Done. Like, totally done. Well, I'll say that does look good. Definitely pleased. Yep. I don't see anything I missed. Don't see anything that needs touched up. I think it's gorgeous. I think if anything, I may end up doing a second border right inside here. Just enough to give this line some weight. It's awfully flimsy. I don't know if that's the right word for it, but when I do the eagle in here, then it may need a little bit of extra weight all around the scroll work in order to act as a better separator. Yeah. No, we'll see. But it's probably all I'm going to cut on camera today. Go get dinner started, then I'm going to shade this. So, yeah. Hopefully I have a little more clarity tomorrow. And, yeah. I don't know. It doesn't look like anything's going to change. You know, looks like we're at where we're at. Okay, that's where I'm going to stop.